So this is where it starts to get really interesting, really fun if you are tracking how the 49ers are building their roster throughout the 2026 offseason. $57 million in estimated salary cap space when you calculate the way that you should calculate it on a 53-man projection, and several inflection points coming up. These are cut and trade related triggers, and we've listed 6 of the most prominent ones on this spreadsheet, but many, many more. In fact, the 49ers have more trigger dates that might pertain to cuts and trades, and then obviously to a bunch of other things like restructures than I think that they have ever had in the John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan era. So I'm going to go through all of these, and I'm going to explain, and you could even take out a calendar right now and mark down different dates to keep your eyes open as the 49ers enter the NFL scouting combine in Indianapolis coming up this next week. And then after that, it's going to be the start of the new league year. And you'll notice that a lot of the triggers are going to hit at the start of the new league year or just a couple weeks after that. And that's going to allow you to make some sense of this 49ers offseason. So first things first, you've got Nick Bosa on here. He's down at the very, very bottom. Nick Bosa has an interesting contractual situation. A lot of people ask me about him because he's got the largest salary cap hit for 2026 on the 49ers. It's over $41 million, $41.6 million to be exact. Now, he's got a base salary this next year of $22.7 million that is fully guaranteed. So the 49ers, it's actually a no-brainer. If they need a little bit more salary cap room in 2026, they can restructure that fully guaranteed base salary into what becomes either a signing or an option bonus, depending on the exact way that it's defined for 2026. But they could spread the salary cap hit out into the future. As an example, I'm going to show you Brock Purdy's contract. The 49ers can do more of this for Nick Bosa's contract. They can actually take the base salary for 2026. And again, this is not Bosa's, this is Purdy's, but they can execute the same thing that they have done with Purdy's and they've done for other years of Bosa's deal and stretch out a conversion of base salary into signing bonus into future years, all the way up to 5 years, elongated like an accordion into the future. So in the case of Nick Bosa, the 49ers can take and create about $17 million of near-term 2026 salary cap space. In fact, I would expect them to do that at some point this offseason. Now, if you look at the cheat sheet here, they can do that at any point this offseason. Restructure, which are savings, it's listed here in the bottom right, that can be done at any point for Nick Bosa. Dates that are a little bit more firm that we can look at coming up quicker on the 49ers calendar. Bryce Huff is due a $1 million roster bonus on the third day of the new league year, which is coming up on March 13th. So that means that if Huff is on the 49ers roster, then they will owe him $1 million. There are 2 inflection points for Bryce Huff this offseason. The much larger one comes at the start of the regular season, where Bryce Huff would be owed $14.6 million, which would be prorated over 5 years, but it would be the amount that he is owed as an option bonus for being on the team at the start of the regular season in 2026. So 2 trigger dates, one much smaller, one much larger. I have talked about this in the past. I've said, well, do the 49ers really want to pay Bryce Huff a total of about 17 or 18 million this season, the bulk of which would come through that $14.6 million option bonus? If they don't feel, and if Raheem Morris, especially the new defensive coordinator, doesn't feel that he fits San Francisco's plans enough at that rate, well, the 49ers can either ask him to take a pay cut before then, or they can trade him before then. But if he is on the roster the third day of the new league year, March 13th, they will owe him $1 million, and they can't offload that $1 million to another team. Some logic can tell you that maybe Robert Saleh with the Tennessee Titans would like Bryce Huff. Maybe a move comes before the third day of the new league year so the 49ers don't have to pay that $1 million. They can offload him to Tennessee, and maybe Tennessee redoes the contract, or maybe the 49ers keep him as is for now and then see if they can work a pay cut at a later date with Bryce Huff. But that's the situation. Here are some other dates. Christian McCaffrey on March 15th is owed a $10.55 million option bonus. Now, the McCaffrey option bonus, it's a lot like the Purdy option bonuses, and he's got several of those throughout his contract. It's a staggered structure. It would spread out over several years on the cap, and that's already been built into Christian McCaffrey's contract. This is how the 49ers operate financially. They, with any of these bigger deals, try to stagger things into signing or option bonuses so that they don't have to pay the full salary cap load now. They defer the money into the future against the salary cap more aggressively than essentially any other team in the NFL. It's worked out for the 49ers so far. I expect it to continue working out. Another team that does it very aggressively is the Philadelphia Eagles, and I think that more NFL teams are going to follow suit. The Brock Purdy contract given out last year is the biggest example of how the 49ers try to stave hits into the future. They obviously have the base salaries in the first column, but they have the signing bonus and multiple option bonuses moving into the future. And you can see they really stiff-arm salary cap hits into the future to the point where Purdy's hit this year, $24.8 million, is not very high at all, considering the fact that this is a contract worth over $50 million annually. The salary cap hit in year one was only $9.1 million. They owe more later. They can continue staving it off into the future later as the salary cap does grow. But I can go through the full list of dates to watch now, okay? And we're going to go through some big name players first. So I told you Bosa, look for a restructure to open up $17 million at some point this offseason. Again, the 49ers have $57 million right now, approximately. We're waiting to see how big the cap is. They're not going to be able to spend all of that because they've got to carry over unused space into next season. They still have about, I would say, at least 13 spots, maybe close to 20 spots to fill, to spend for. So that $57 million can start to dwindle pretty quickly, even if you give out backloaded contracts, when you consider that you have to leave maybe, $30 million, at least $30 million, and maybe at least $20 million on the table unused so you can carry it over into 2027. That is because your costs, as we see Brock Purdy's deal, are going to escalate moving into future years. Brock Purdy's cap hit in 2029 right now is scheduled to be $72.5 million. That shows you that it is smart to stack up unused space and take it into future years so you can continue to surf the wave of the salary cap. Anyway, Bosa tops on our list just because it's the biggest cap hit. Second biggest cap hit for the 49ers this year is Trent Williams. Nothing guaranteed currently on Trent Williams' contract, but this on April 1st, and this is a big trigger date in 49ers contracts, on April 1st, Trent Williams is due a $10 million option bonus. He has said he is for sure coming back and playing next offseason, so you don't have to deal again for the second straight year, or maybe the third or the fourth straight year, with idiotic rumors that Trent Williams is going to retire. Those were not based in fact last offseason. They're not based in fact this year, but Trent Williams is entering the final year of his contract, where currently nothing is guaranteed, but by April 1st, the 49ers do have to pay a $10 million option bonus, which by the nature of the contract, by the design of the contract with Trent Williams, will be stretched out, again, like an accordion, over 4 years. They've decided 4 years is the proration period for the $10 million Trent Williams option bonus. Now, with the $22.1 million base salary for Trent, the 49ers can convert that to another signing bonus or another option bonus, whatever they want to call it, and they could save a little bit more money, just like they can with Nick Bosa. Like I said, the Bosa money that could save $17 million because of the base salary that can be converted, around that much can also be saved if the 49ers restructure Trent Williams. So maybe that can be expected once that April 1st option bonus does hit. For Brock Purdy, so now dealing with this contract specifically, right now, as of right now, and this was cool because Purdy had this rolling guarantee structure. On April 1st of this season, he's got the yellow part of this contract. You can see in 2027, the yellow proration hits. That is 15 million divided by 5 is 3 million per season. The third option bonus, or I guess the second option bonus and the third total bonus, triggers for Brock Purdy next season in 2027. On April 1st is when that yellow or gold option bonus officially will become guaranteed. So Purdy was a good sport with his deal, did not take over $60 million as I think he could have, given the leverage that he had as the quarterback of the 49ers, but he left room to build a roster around him. The way that the deal rewards Brock Purdy is on a staggered rolling structure. So every April 1st, or not everyone, but these initial April 1st of the deal, the guaranteed money for the subsequent year becomes fully guaranteed. It goes from basically what we call a virtual guarantee to a full guarantee. You'll see this yellow guarantee for Brock Purdy on April 1st for 2027. A deal that is not quite as strong, not nearly as strong as Brock Purdy's, is Deommodore Lenoir's. He didn't have any guaranteed money, virtual or full guaranteed money in this 2026 season, but he does have a $14.5 million option due, and it's not due until September 1st. So theoretically, when we put this into practice, the 49ers could sit on Deommodore Lenoir's deal, and if they find massive upgrades at cornerback, I'm not saying they will. I think they really like Lenoir. I think he's coming off a good season. But just to give you an idea of how much of a team-friendly deal this is, they could cut him on August 31st and not owe him anything moving into the future. Sure, there'd be some dead money proration from what they've already paid him, but they don't owe Deommodore Lenoir anything else right now moving forward. Now, I think he's a really good corner. I think that he's a versatile corner. I think they like the price at $14.5 million. That's the option that would be due on September 1st, right before the start of the regular season. It'll kick in then. It'll prorate over 5 years on the salary cap, so Lenoir's cap hit is not going to be all that big this season. That was a bargain that the 49ers got in the middle of the season, midstream 2024, and they're going to continue living off of that bargain at the cornerback one position, but look for that inflection point on September 1st for Deommodore Lenoir. For Fred Warner, April 1st is a big day because on April 1st, both his 2026 and his 2027 salaries will become guaranteed. He's got a $21 million option bonus in 2027. And that option bonus is just like Brock Purdy's $15 million option bonus that becomes guaranteed for 2027 will trigger on this April 1st. So Fred Warner, the player the 49ers are not worried about in the least. They'll watch the April 1st come and go this year, and he'll watch April 1st come and go this year, and he will be locked in for 2026 and 2027. When you have a guy as reliable as Fred Warner, 49ers have him. I mean, the first real injury that he suffered was this past year when he suffered the broken ankle, and he still almost came back for the postseason. But when you have a player that reliable, you can fork out a contract that is very, very player friendly, right? That gives that player a lot of guarantees because you believe that he's going to come through on those guarantees. Then I don't think there's a shred of doubt in anybody's mind that Fred Warner is going to be a very good player for the 49ers in 2026 and 2027. And his contract reflects that. And April 1st is going to be the trigger date. George Kittle, speaking of guys coming off of injuries, he's working hard to be back as soon as possible from his Achilles tear. George Kittle has $12.9 million guaranteed this offseason. Remember, like Warner, he signed a new contract with the 49ers last offseason. So that means guarantees rolling here into 2026. The 49ers just have to pay the $10.9 million option, which is part of that $12.9 million guaranteed to George Kittle by August 1st. So about a week or so into 2026 training camp. Now, Kittle, this just goes to show you how cost efficient the tight end position is for teams. Not great for George Kittle, But if Kittle, I mean, he's just as good as wide receiver ones across this league. He's maybe even more impactful than those guys. If he were at that wide receiver position, we'd probably be talking about $20 to $30 million needing to be guaranteed to George Kittle this year. And we'd talk about the 49ers needed to pay that amount by August 1st. Since he's a tight end, since the tight end salaries are depressed versus the receiver salaries, the 49ers owe him only $10.9 million by August 1st. That just leads me to believe that, hey, maybe the 49ers will be able to go out and sign another tight end to have an outsized impact relative to his salary and cap number, because tight ends are just in general cheaper than wide receivers. So we look on that market and we see potential availabilities of David Njoku. We see a potential availability of Kyle Pitts, Dallas Goedert, Zach Ertz. I mean, Ertz obviously older, but all those guys are slated to be free agents. And I think that another investment in a veteran tight end makes a whole heck of a lot of sense, especially since Luke Farrell, the 49ers acquisition last year, I don't think really lived up to the 49ers expectations. And there's a big inflection date, as you can see here on my list of top 6 inflection dates on Luke Farrell, coming on April 1st. That is when about $5 million of his 2026 compensation becomes fully guaranteed. Now, if the 49ers want to keep Luke Farrell, then they'll probably keep him beyond April 1st. And yes, $5 million of his 2026 compensation will become guaranteed there. He signed a 3-year contract with the 49ers last offseason. But if they don't want to keep Luke Farrell, if they successfully upgrade through free agency, which opens up on or roughly on March 11th with the legal tampering window, well, then the 49ers will cut him before then, and they will not owe him any more money moving forward. None of the year 2 guarantees for Luke Farrell kick in until April 1st. Now, if the 49ers move on from Farrell, they will essentially have paid $6 million for 1 season, which is not great. That would, not be a highly successful signing by any stretch of the imagination. But as you can see, 1 year, $6 million for Farrell will not have broken the bank for the 49ers, and they can move on if they believe that this partnership is no longer something that is efficient or feasible for them. So speaking of tight ends, Kittle's inflection point, I mean, it's all guaranteed anyway. Doesn't come until a little bit later this year. So he's going to be with the team as he recovers from his Achilles injury. And Luke Farrell, that I think is a much, much bigger question mark. Look at April 1st as a trigger date there. Before April 1st, this one is hidden and, I think low-key really interesting. Christian McCaffrey, option bonus, $10.55 million, not guaranteed, due on March 15th. Now, I have a big piece coming out on Christian McCaffrey tomorrow up on the San Francisco Standard. Here's the thing about Christian. The volume that he put in this year saved the 49ers season. I mean, it was awesome, right? He almost went 1,000 again for the second time. Could have been the first NFL player to do that. He came up just short in the receiving yardage. But the 49ers were so injured across the wideout positions, obviously also so injured across defense, but injured at quarterback, injured at tight end with George Kittle. They were down to skeleton crew level of weapons, but Christian was the one constant who was available all year for the 49ers. And the fact that he was able to put in 413 touches, which was a career high, I think was glue that kept the 49ers sealed together this season. Obviously, it was not as efficient as a 2023, where Christian McCaffrey had a ton of counter weapon support and delivered his most explosive season of his career. There were, I think, 5.4 yards per carry in 2023. It was down to 3.9 this season. A lot of what I'll talk about in my piece tomorrow up on the San Francisco Standard is that Christian, back when he went 1,000 for Carolina in 2019, actually delivered some of the same advanced metrics or very similar advanced metrics to this year. So a lot of people are trying to argue, Christian McCaffrey might have had a lot of volume this past year, but he wasn't efficient and explosive. That must mean that he's on the decline. He's going to turn 30 this June. Cut bait with Christian McCaffrey sooner rather than later. That's been the argument that I've been seeing. But Christian, back in 2019, when he went 1,000 with Carolina, actually had very similar yards after contact and elusive rating scores that weren't very good. He reached 1,000 in Carolina on a bad team, on a 5-11 team in 2019 through volume. I think the lesson here is that Christian McCaffrey is very much still in his prime, but he played on an offense that wasn't in its prime this past year because it saw so much injury destruction. The clue about where Christian McCaffrey is effectiveness-wise is better gleaned through the volume he was able to deliver over 17 full games than it is through per down or per snap efficiency stats. Those were badly hurt by the fact that there were no counter threats on this 49ers offense, and opposing defenses just got to focus on Christian McCaffrey down in, down out. Now, I'll make more of that football argument tomorrow when the article comes out in the San Francisco Standard, but it will be interesting to many people because there's this subcurrent of a debate going on online regarding Christian McCaffrey that the 49ers do have to pay out that $10.55 million option bonus by March 15th, which is less than a month from now. And that will essentially cement Christian McCaffrey with the 49ers for the 2026 season. Moving forward, I'm telling you guys, there's a lot of interesting trigger dates for the 49ers on this roster this year. Colton McKivitz, he's here to stay for the 49ers. He has a guaranteed 2026. There's an $8.2 million or $8.2 million option bonus coming in for Colton McKivitz this offseason. He signed the deal on the eve of the 49ers 2025 season opener at Seattle. But it is worth also noting that this is a deal built around security, not around a high APY for Colton McKivitz. He could have waited to sign something that was, I think, much more lucrative, but he wanted the security entering the season. He didn't want to get hurt and then have to worry about his career possibly barreling out without anything. So on April 1st, he gets $6.3 million of 2027 pay to guarantee. So already guaranteed for about $8 million this year. 2027 pay at about $6.3 million. That becomes guaranteed for Colton McKivitz, the 49ers right tackle, on April 1st. So you could see, I mean, he's an above average right tackle. He could have easily just held out last off season and said, I'll just play at a tender rate. I'll just wait till unrestricted free agency, and then I could go for $20 million plus. Instead, he's signed on a deal that, the cash flow here is coming in around $10 million a year, maybe a little bit less when you look at the fine print, but it's guaranteed through 2026 and 2027, and he already went through 2025 with peace of mind. In actuality, though, when we want to look at the 49ers big time salary cap blueprint, the spreadsheet of how the 49ers are dealing with their money on a year in and year out basis, the Colton McKivitz contract has really, really helped them in the big picture because they're getting good tackle play at an insanely affordable rate. If you look at the offensive line, McKivitz's salary cap hit for 2026 only $5.82 million. So that is efficient for San Francisco. All right, here's a really interesting one. Bryce Huff. Actually, we talked about Bryce already, right? That was the first one we talked about, but it's the next on my list. Again, $1 million. I'll repeat this for those who hadn't joined yet. $1 million for a roster bonus on March 13th. And then it's the real trigger is the option bonus due at the start of the regular season, $14.6 million. I do wonder if a trade to the Titans and Robert Saleh, who loves Bryce Huff, might be in the cards, or if just the restructure is in the cards for the 49ers, the pay cut type of restructure. Obviously, a lot tethered to how much does Raheem Morris want Bryce Huff on this team? How does he feel he works with Nick Bosa? How are the 49ers going to solve the problem of adding more edge rushers? We can talk a lot about Max Crosby until we're blue in the face, but until the Raiders are actually willing to trade him, that is a pie in the sky, regardless of whether or not he is a co-owner now of Leeds United with the 49ers, the soccer club in the United Kingdom. Demarcus Robinson, the receiver, has a $2.09 million option bonus due on September 1st. He was decently productive this past year. I think for a receiver, that's a very good rate. I think that's a guy that you want as your number 3 at highest. I think ideally Demarcus Robinson is your number 4, a good veteran presence in the building, at a $2.09 million option bonus to keep for 2026 6. That's a no-brainer, and that's not due until September 1st, so he's going to stay on this roster throughout the offseason. Mac Jones, the quarterback, has a $1.4 million option bonus due 5 days prior to the season opener. Talk about a favorable contract to a team. Obviously, it's eminently tradable. In fact, if somebody trades for Mac Jones, they're going to have to fork over a ton of draft capital. The 49ers won't even think about it. They might not even think about it if there is a valuable deal there, because they love having that depth in the quarterback room. But if a team does trade for Mac Jones, they're going to have to turn around and give him a new contract in all likelihood, because all that would be remaining is a $1.4 million option bonus due 5 days prior to the new league year, plus some incentives. But if you trade for Mac Jones, you're probably thinking about him as at least a bridge starter in 2026, and that would necessitate more money. But the 49ers did really well to make sure they got him under contractual control for not just 1 year, but 2 years. Speaking of this, some of you guys might be wondering about the shirt. Look at this deli board with a 49ers logo. That is Adam's Sandwich Shop over there on 7th and Folsom. They do serve the 49er. Really, really good stuff. I saw there have been massive lines every single day at Deli Board over the course of the past couple weeks, since they blew up over the course of the Super Bowl, and they were heavily featured in our sandwich video that came out that week. All right, Kyle Yuscheck, $1.75 million option bonus due 5 days prior to the season opener. And he already had a little bit of guaranteed money base salary-wise this year, so don't expect any contractual drama with Kyle Yuscheck this offseason like we saw last offseason. And that about rounds out the 49ers trigger dates this offseason. I got to count how many of these I listed. And obviously we put some of the highlights up on the screen, but that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 contract triggers listed for the 49ers. With one more, Brandon Aiyuk has a $25 million option due on September 1st. 49ers obviously do not plan to pay that, but if Brandon Aiyuk doesn't show up, he's not going to be entitled to that money. If the 49ers just want to sit there and not do anything with him to hold him hostage really on the roster so he can't sign with anybody else, as long as he stays away from the team, they can do so. And it could potentially set up a showdown approaching September 1st where Brandon Aiyuk might actually have to show up to the team facility in order to guarantee his release or spur his release from the 49ers. Because if they don't have to pay the $25 million, if he's away from the facility, then they'll just keep him. But if Aiyuk wants out and he knows the 49ers aren't willing to pay that option bonus, he might need to show up before September 1st, which would be super dramatic. And then the 49ers would cut him and then he could sign wherever. Or they can try to force Aiyuk to work with them on a trade that lessens his compensation for future years so that San Francisco gets at least something back for Brandon Aiyuk. But I would not recommend to the 49ers to just cut ties with Brandon Aiyuk entirely, because giving up the contractual control in this situation, I believe would be a blunder. I think that for precedent's sake, you have to play hardball if you're the 49ers. Obviously, so far they have, and you could push this all the way to a September 1st limit if you're San Francisco, assuming Brandon Aiyuk does show up ahead of that time, and you could push it indefinitely if Brandon Aiyuk continues to stay away from the team facility. We got a restructure potential table here because we opened this talking about Nick Bosa. I talked about Bosa and Williams being two contracts that the 49ers can restructure, take the base salary, convert it into signing/option bonus, and open up some room. $17 million each. That adds up to about $34 million in restructure potential. 49ers don't have a whole heck of a lot of restructure potential. They have $43 million. So 34 of the $43 million is taken up by potential redos of Trent Williams and Nick Bosa's contracts. You can see the team with the least restructure potential is the Eagles, because they've already restructured or they've already maxed out everybody's prorations. The Eagles and the 49ers love to structure deals like this. They're the ones that have been the pioneers of using the very, very frequent signing and option bonuses and pushing them forward into the future to ride that salary cap wave. Well, I think that's smart financial planning because the salary cap is rising year over year. And it's just funny that the Eagles do not, they've already basically milked that cow. They don't have anything more aside from $200,000 that they can open up through a restructure in salary cap space this season. Now, the 49ers, I've showed you my calculations. They're right here, $57 million in salary cap space. They can add, theoretically, $43 million onto that. So the 49ers technically have $100 million in spending space right now. If they count the restructures, that's a very clean number, actually. But they don't want to use all of that because, again, you have to be ready to pay the staggered structure moving into the future. Salary cap space that is not used this season can be used in future seasons. These are sinks that are interconnected, and you got to keep the water level of each sink under the lip of the sink. There's pipes connecting the sinks. So you can lower the water level in each given year by cutting spending, or you can run restructures. Restructures mean that you push money into the future through the staggered structure of these signing and option bonuses in blue, green, yellow, or teal. You let water out of one sink through the pipe into future sinks, and you manage those sink levels so that all of the water levels stay under the lip of the sink. Now, the thing working in the 49ers benefit, the thing working in the Eagles benefit, and any team's benefit, if you're smart enough to take advantage of this, is that the sink has grown larger every single season because the salary cap is increased. So why not let more water flow into future years' sinks so that you've got more sink space in 2026? So on the surface, in the simplest terms possible, the 49ers have up to $100 million of spending room here in 2026. Will they use all of it? Not necessarily, because they've got to have money that flows over into future sinks, but they definitely do have plenty of spending money here in 2026 as they try to build their team over the course of the offseason. All right, that is me talking with only 2 coughing breaks, so we're getting better every single day, about finances for 32 minutes. And you guys probably didn't even know that I coughed because I was able to cover it up on the screen. So we're getting healthier. I should be good to go. I am now, there's no more probable designation, but if there were a probable designation, I'd be listed probable for the NFL Combine in Indianapolis coming up this week. Still technically listed as questionable, but I think that today was a very big step in that direction, in the positive direction. And I've been talking for 33 minutes. I'm even ready to answer questions about some of this financial stuff, some of these trigger dates right now. But I think the big ones, we put them up on the screen. The big ones that you do want to keep an eye out for are Bryce Huff, Christian McCaffrey, Trent Williams, and Nick Bosa, but just because of the restructures that the 49ers can do on both of those fronts. There you go. You can see all of it. And obviously Luke Farrell, since there's a chance he will not be with the 49ers anymore, but April 1st probably will tell us a lot. That deadline will tell us a lot about the future of Luke Farrell. All right, I'm ready. Let's go. Yeah, all these people saying trade. Who wants Brandon Aiyuk right now? You can't just say offload assets we don't like for assets that we want, thinking that other teams are idiots. I've seen so many trade proposals. It's like, oh yeah, let's just toss in Jair Brown. If nobody wants to trade for Jair Brown, he doesn't bring any value to another team, and that doesn't help you pick up a Max Crosby if it's a trade with the Raiders. Just tossing in Brandon Aiyuk on a trade to the Raiders doesn't necessarily make the Raiders happy. In fact, I don't think it would, because, again, Aiyuk would have to work with both the 49ers and the acquiring team to reduce that $25 million option bonus that is due on September 1st. Nobody just wants to inherit a contract with that landmine in it. That's a landmine that is going to blow up on September 1st for a guy that's been probably the epitome of unreliability. Like, the only time you've seen him is when he sped by your facility and posted a YouTube video about it. So why would any NFL team in its right mind want to inherit that contract. You can't just trade it away willy-nilly. It's not something of value. It's a liability. Now, the 49ers right now aren't on the hook for that liability because Brandon Aiyuk left and deserted the squad, so they're not paying him. They don't have to pay him right now, but any acquiring team would be on the hook for that liability, and it's not necessarily something that you would shoulder and bring on in order to let go of a much more valuable asset and send him to the 49ers. So all this pie in the sky, the 49ers just need to trade Brandon Aiyuk for something. Let's start operating with logic here. A guy that has left the facility coming off of a severe injury, who hasn't played since week 7 of 2024, is not worth anything. Like, he's just not. Like, there's going to have to be some kind of adjustment here, some data point, some inflection point that steers us in a different direction before we can say that Brandon Aiyuk's contract has some worth. Like, I keep on seeing these clueless suggestions to trade Brandon Aiyuk for Max Crosby, and it's just like, no, guys, start using your logic. Start using reason. If Brandon Aiyuk is not doing anything for the 49ers, he's not going to be moving needles for other teams. All right, more questions. Let's ask some good ones. No stupid Brandon Aiyuk questions. I mean, normally I'm pretty nice about this kind of stuff, and I get it because some of this, I get it. The contract stuff is complicated, and I try to explain it. But the trade Brandon Aiyuk for 5 All-Pros talks needs to stop because it's just idiotic. It just doesn't make any sense. You can't come in with counterfeit money into a Best Buy and buy 5 really nice TVs, right? Like, there's worth that has to go both directions whenever you're making a trade. It might just be some trolls with the Brandon Aiyuk stuff, but I see it on Twitter all the time. So I think that the delineation between trolling and just absolute idiocy is not clear on the internet. So, I mean, if you address one, you're probably addressing the other. All right. Any more good contract questions? Anything about these trigger dates? Let's go. Maybe Mike has a couple ideas here. The Cowboys and running back Javonte Williams have agreed to terms on a 3-year deal worth $24 million. So sounds like $8 million per year. Dallas keeps one of their better players. The Rams plan to propose a rules change that would address replay-assisted 2-point conversions scored by the Seahawks in Week 16. The Rams still salty about what happened since there, I guess, wasn't a whistle, right? There wasn't a whistle when Zach Charbonnet picked up the football in that 2-point conversion up in Seattle as the Seahawks made their comeback from 16 points down. All right, I want some questions. The way that this offseason works is that the NFL Combine is next in Indy. I'll be there this week, and then the owners' meetings are about a month after that. When we're talking about these rules changes and these proposals, well, the Rams proposal is going to be voted on at the owners' meetings. Those will be in Phoenix this year, coming up in about 5 to 6 weeks from now. These are the 6 inflection points that you should burn into your brain leaving this show. Hopefully it was a good primer for you regarding what may or may not happen this offseason or what to look out for. But I tried to make this as concise as possible and put it in as simple of terms as possible, since I know that a lot of this stuff can be a little bit more difficult to understand. Want me to post the finance chart that I posted last year? Well, that's here. That's this one, and we're going to have a roster builder coming out very, very soon. I'm going to take this and I'm going to put this into the comment section so you guys can go ahead and check it out. There you go. Go ahead and check out the comment section. All right, everybody, thank you for watching. A good 40 minutes. Those are the triggers that you need to keep an eye out for. It's going to be a busy offseason. Again, I haven't seen an offseason with this many contractual trigger dates under Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch yet. So should be a very, very active one for us to cover this offseason.